How could I have anticipated that this one fleeting moment would irrevocably change the trajectory of my existence? What started as a mundane day transformed entirely the instant I crossed the threshold into that room. As I glimpsed the door slightly open, a jolt of apprehension surged within me, stirring a tempest of excitement and anxiety. Retreating was a possibility, an alluring refuge from the uncertainties that awaited beyond. Yet I restrained myself, for in that moment of clarity, I realized that everything had altered beyond repair. Indeed, the burden of responsibility lay heavily upon me, for I was the catalyst, the one who sparked a fire and could not bring it to a close. Sebastian became enveloped in the vibrant energy of his workplace. The house rested in a haunting stillness, but a faint murmur floated down from the darkness above. Caleb found himself in solitude within the confines of his softly illuminated chamber, the shadows swirling about him as he contemplated the burdens of the world beyond his threshold. At first glance, it appeared trivial. A momentary glimpse reveals a young man lost within the vast expanse of his own thoughts. Yet, it is possible that a steaming cup of coffee might draw him in. A fleeting conversation might ignite a captivating connection. As I ascended the creaking stairs, each step felt heavy with anticipation, compelling me to unravel the origin of the eerie sounds reverberating through the shadowy corridor. As I neared his room, an unsettling feeling enveloped me. The door was slightly open, both inviting and ominous. I drew in a quick breath, poised to call out his name, but then my eyes landed on Caleb. He perched on the edge of his bed, the laptop cradled in his lap, its luminous screen casting an unsettling light upon his features. His hands moved with a fervent energy, and for a brief instant, I was convinced he was simply entranced by an exhilarating spectacle before him. Could it be an exhilarating action movie? Yet, as I advanced another step, altering my viewpoint, a frigid wave enveloped me, sapping the hue from my cheeks. In that moment, a sudden clarity illuminated my mind. I grasped exactly what Caleb was devising. As my eyes landed on the screen, a cold wave swept over me, leaving behind an eerie feeling that lingered. What I experienced surpassed all my wildest dreams. This moment was never one I desired to behold. Caleb's heart pounded in his chest as he struggled to steady himself, his fingers swiftly reaching for the laptop's volume control in a frantic bid to quell the tumult surrounding him. Yet that moment had eluded capture, forever beyond reach. The moment arrived and swiftly departed, leaving behind whispers of its presence. As our eyes met, a deep crimson hue blossomed on his cheeks, the unmistakable flicker of shame dancing in his gaze. I'm sorry," he murmured, his eyes falling to the earth, as though the burden of his confession was too great to carry. A cold shiver seized my body, leaving me frozen in place. I found myself at the brink of the abyss, the wind swirling fiercely, echoing the cries of a wandering soul. Below, the tumultuous waters collided with the rugged rocks, casting sprays of mist into the atmosphere. My heart quickened, every pulse resonating with the doubt that clutched at my spirit. The heavens loomed overhead, a chaotic tapestry of shadowy clouds, twisting and turning with an unsettling energy, as though the very essence of nature was poised in anticipation. I inhaled deeply, bracing myself for the journey that awaited, fully aware that this moment would alter the course of my life. The road ahead was cloaked in enigma, and I sensed the heavy hand of fate compelling me to plunge into the abyss of uncertainty. Well, the door stood before her, a gateway to the mysterious, its surface aged and battered, murmuring tales of what awaited on the other side. I started to articulate my thoughts, but the words danced away from me, slipping through my grasp like grains of sand, leaving me adrift in a haze of doubt. A strange warmth flowed through my veins, kindling a flame inside me. Shame enveloped me, while my thoughts cascaded like a raging river, fleeting and just beyond my grasp. I erupted from the confines of the room, my heart pounding furiously within my chest. I pressed my hands to my face, grappling with my breath as the gravity of the moment enveloped me. What on earth was that? I whispered gently to myself. What had I just set free upon the world? What had driven me to such recklessness? Nevertheless, was I the only mastermind behind this turmoil? Enough, I told myself with steadfast determination. Selena. Yet, the turmoil within me surged, fueled by forces that transcended the mere sights unfolding before my eyes. At the age of 23, Caleb stepped beyond the boundary of youth, shedding the innocence that once defined his childhood. At 47, I found myself a woman who had carried the heavy burden of shame, each experience, leaving its indelible mark upon my soul. Never had I encountered such a predicament, yet the burden of shame felt all too familiar, enveloping me like a dense fog. I found myself frozen in the shadowy corridor, my heart racing wildly within my chest. With quaking hands, I ran my fingers through my hair, striving to reclaim my poise. Upon entering the room, Caleb found himself fidgeting with the collar of his shirt, a subtle yet telling sign of his unease. He cleared his throat, the sound reverberating in the charged stillness, and purposefully turned his eyes away, as though the gravity of the moment was more than he could endure. Selena. I extend my sincerest apologies. I believed I had shut the door, he whispered, a hint of doubt threading his voice, but genuine earnestness glimmered beneath. I quickly turned my eyes away, shaking my head in refusal. No, well, the burden of the apology truly lies with me. I ought to have knocked before entering, I exclaimed, a sense of urgency threading through my words as I grappled to conjure anything more to utter. The silence wrapped around all, a dense shroud of tranquility that appeared to extend endlessly. Yet this silence bore a gravity all its own. For years, we had inhabited the same space, yet never had we looked at each other with such fervor. For the first time, an electric tension crackled in the air between us. With a palpable sense of urgency, I turned and headed toward the stairs, the thought of dinner hovering in my mind like a shadow eager to be dispelled. My voice trembled, a delicate strand restraining the tempest inside me as I struggled to keep my poise. Caleb held his silence, his eyes fixed on me as though he were deciphering an intricate enigma hidden within the recesses of his thought. Before the momentous events transpired between Caleb and me, be sure to subscribe to my channel, activate notifications, and dive deep into this narrative until the very end. A captivating journey lies just ahead, ready to unfold. The silence lingered, thick and oppressive, until that pivotal evening when everything transformed. Silence surrounded them, a dense shroud of unexpressed thought. Silence reigned supreme. Screens remained dark, eyes avoided contact, and the air was thick with an unspoken agreement that even the softest murmur of conversation would shatter the tranquility. In that stillness, a ghostly murmur lingered, vowing that nothing would revert to its former state. During dinner, we shared the same table, but our gazes remained stubbornly averted. The solitary sound that broke the thick silence was the crisp clink of silverware against porcelain, resonating like a faint whisper in the softly illuminated room. The atmosphere was laden with unsaid sentiments, a tangible strain lingering in the space between us. A palpable tension hung in the air, urging us to break the silence that enveloped us. Yet, how could such a thing be conceivable? The night faded into the embrace of dawn, giving way to another day, and then yet another, with each moment unfurling into an infinite tapestry of time. All seemed mundane, but hidden beneath the facade, turmoil awaited in the darkness. The silence wrapped around us, thickening the atmosphere with an unvoiced tension that sparked like electricity, growing stronger with each heartbeat. On that fateful afternoon, Caleb made the decision to sit beside me, an unremarkable moment that was destined to transform into something remarkable. His eyes danced with doubt, yet the unmistakable yearning to repair what had been shattered gleamed brightly. "Selena, in reference to the events of the other day, an overwhelming tide of humiliation engulfs me. This was never my intention. I can't allow this to ruin what we share," he implored, his voice quaking but brimming with heartfelt sincerity. As I took a deep breath, the cool, crisp air filled my lungs, invigorating my senses. In the midst of the strange and unexpected events, I was compelled to discover a means to soothe him. A smile slowly emerged on my lips as I shrugged, the burden of countless awkward memories lingering in the atmosphere. "Caleb," I remarked, "trust me, I've experienced my fair share of those throughout the years." In that fleeting moment, I revealed a collection of those indelible memories to him. His smile softened, a flicker of relief coursing through him as he nodded, the burden of his embarrassment starting to fade away. In that moment, it seemed as though the oppressive burden of tension that had lingered between us had at last lifted. Yet, beneath the surface, I felt an undeniable shift in the dynamics of our relationship. Even with the flickers of optimism that had started to emerge, this dialogue dismantled the delicate barriers that had previously separated us. A profound awareness stirred within me. What awaited was set to dive into unfathomable depths. Caleb let out a gentle laugh, his gaze wandering to the table, as if it concealed mysteries yearning to be revealed. "I guess we're even now," he said softly, his voice just a breath above silence. A shadow of worry flitted across my features as I glanced in his direction. "What is it that you are attempting to convey?" I asked, curiosity lacing my voice. In a heartbeat, his demeanor shifted, as though he had suddenly comprehended the gravity of his words. Something unchangeable, a truth that could never be retracted. He rubbed the back of his neck, a moment of hesitation lingering in the air like a dense fog. Nevertheless, he had already set forth on his journey. With no alternative route in sight, he forged ahead, propelled by an indomitable drive. He drew in a breath, his eyes wandering into the horizon as he murmured, "I've seen you. Just like that. Unbeknownst to you, it lay hidden in the shadows, poised for discovery." A surge of electricity coursed through my being, awakening every nerve, ending with a thrilling intensity. Time seemed to freeze as a shiver coursed through my being. "What is unfolding?" I whispered, sensing the weight of his words envelop me like a looming shadow. Caleb's cheeks flushed with a searing intensity, yet he forged ahead, resolute. "I concealed it from you for all this time." A wave of shame engulfed me, rendering me mute and motionless. Still, it remained in the recesses of my thoughts, a permanent imprint that would not diminish. In reality, it was a secret I cherished deep within my soul, a notion that lingered in my thoughts, steadfast and unyielding. My heart raced with an uncontainable fervor. A strange warmth flowed through my veins, kindling a flame within me. A strange sensation emerged, hinting that a change had taken place in our relationship. Caleb's words resonated deeply, heavy with the burden of a confession, filled with secrets poised to be revealed. They shattered every obstacle that had previously divided us. I looked at him, my heart pounding with eager expectation. His eyes were fixed on me, an unvoiced bond lingering in the atmosphere. In this instant, a silent comprehension lingered in the air, indicating that what we were engaging in was anything but a typical exchange. The atmosphere in the room thickened, a tangible strain enveloping them as the world around them transformed. From that moment on, our dialogues took on a new richness, transforming the way we engaged with one another. A profound divide had lingered between us in times gone by, the invisible wall that kept us apart. Yet now, it appeared as though that boundary had completely vanished. Unbeknownst to me, I discovered a growing ease in Caleb's company, and our dialogues began to flow with greater openness. Ephemeral moments, dialogues that seem insignificant, yet carry the burden of unspoken narratives. Yet, in reality, each passing moment only deepened the palpable tension that lingered between us. We gathered in unison, our gazes fixed on the screen, where tales unfolded vividly before us. Previously, we upheld a measured separation between ourselves. We exchanged countless moments, discovering shared passions that deepened our connection. An unvoiced comprehension hung in the air between us, tangible yet unacknowledged, a reality we both felt but chose to avoid facing. There were instances when Caleb's arm rested nonchalantly on the couch, when my hand brushed against his leg by chance, or when our laughter intertwined in the atmosphere. And in those ephemeral moments, an unfamiliar feeling awakened within me. Still, I struggled to banish it from my thoughts. On a night filled with restlessness, slumber slipped through my fingers. In a state of unease, I shifted and turned in my bed, unable to discover comfort in the fabric that enveloped me. Yet the chaos within me would not be quelled. A solitary notion enveloped my mind. In the muted glow of the room, a name resonated gently, hanging in atmosphere like a hushed confession: Caleb. The conclusion was unavoidable. A line needed to be established. If he held any feelings for me, I understood that I must face it directly and bring it to a conclusion. Compelled by that notion, I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood up. My heart raced with fervor, each beat resonating in my ears. Nevertheless, my feet seemed to possess a will of their own, guiding me directly to Caleb's room. The door was slightly open, a narrow band of shadow, inviting curiosity from inside. The faint light flickered, creating an ethereal shimmer that softly revealed the shadows swirling throughout the space. Upon crossing the threshold, my gaze was immediately drawn to him. He rested in a profound sleep. In that fleeting moment, however, my eyes wandered to another place. They found themselves entranced by an allure that transcended their immediate environment. A momentous occasion awaits. My breath caught in my throat. My body became a statue, ensnared in a brief pause of tranquility. Seeing him in that condition stirred a storm inside me. It was a vision I was never destined to behold. At that instant, I ought to have pivoted without hesitation. Nevertheless, I held back. I paused in that instant, wrestling with the storm of feelings churning inside me. In a heartbeat, I drew back, my heart pounding fiercely. A tumultuous energy churned inside me, yearning for recognition, but I resolutely averted my gaze from its beckoning. I retreated into my room, the door whispering shut behind me, and collapsed onto the bed, the burdens of existence bearing down as I yielded to the comforting embrace of the sheets. Yet all had transformed beyond repair. Unbeknownst to me that evening, The intricate tapestry of complications was merely starting to entwine itself around my existence. Despite my best efforts, I felt myself irresistibly drawn deeper into the magnetic allure of my bond with Caleb. As the days drifted away, the boundaries that once delineated reality started to fade into a nebulous void. The magnetic force binding us grew stronger with every fleeting second. I remained unaware of the profound depths to which I had descended into this chasm. Yet, beneath the surface, I realized that withdrawing was only pulling me further away from what I held dear. Caleb stepped through the door, a mere shadow of his former self, burdened by the weight of unspoken tales. He stumbled, the liquor surging through his bloodstream like an untamed torrent, distorting the boundaries of existence. The door's creak reverberated in the stillness, breaking the quiet with its haunting call. The items he hurled down to the earth, the sounds possessed an undeniable ability to awaken Sebastian from his deep slumber. Still, I grasped the battle that ensnared Sebastian each dawn as he wrestled to emerge from the abyss of sleep. With a sense of urgency propelling me forward, I erupted from my room and hurried toward Caleb. Before I had the chance to rearrange my attire, I discovered myself positioned directly beside him. Caleb's eyes wandered, a veil of uncertainty dimming his sight. A delicate smile flickered at the edges of his mouth. "Selena, are you really here?" he murmured softly. His words spilled forth, heavy with the influence of drink. Yet they resonated with a profound authenticity. I drew in a quick breath, my fingers gripping his arm with a fierce intensity. "Caleb, please make haste." Climbing the stairs in this condition is simply not an option. In the stillness, we find our sole companion. Caleb's eyes were locked onto my face with unwavering intensity. His lips curved softly, a glimmer of warmth dancing in his eyes. His eyes held steady, meticulously exploring each detail of my being. "Your beauty is undeniably enchanting. Have you always been this way? Or had I merely been oblivious to it all this time?" Time appeared to suspend itself as I remained motionless, ensnared in a fleeting instant of pure incredulity. Yet, in that moment of clarity, I summoned my resolve and composed myself. "Caleb, this has persisted for far too long. Enter the kitchen. Permit me the pleasure of crafting a cup of coffee for you." With purposeful strides, I led him into the very core of the dwelling, the kitchen. I endeavored to draw him away from the precipice of nothingness. Yet, beneath the intensity of Caleb's penetrating gaze and the words flowing from his lips, a profound unrest within me started to unfold. Caleb settled into the chair, a subtle tension lingering in the atmosphere as I began the ritual of brewing the coffee. In a heartbeat, the cup escaped his fingers, shattering against the counter and unleashing its contents in a tumultuous spray. "Ah, Caleb, proceed with heightened vigilance," I murmured with a sense of urgency, my fingers swiftly working to restore order to the disarray surrounding me. Still, Caleb's smile remained, soft and mysterious. "Have you always carried this sweetness within you?" With a sense of urgency propelling me forward, I hurried to organize the kitchen. The gravity of the moment bore heavily upon us, and we understood that we could no longer remain in this space. Sebastian rested in a profound sleep upstairs, but the palpable tension in the atmosphere underscored the necessity of silence, especially with Caleb in such a delicate condition. Each creak of the floorboards resonated like a thunderclap in the silence, and he understood the necessity of moving with caution, for the delicate tranquility that enveloped them was at stake. Indeed, quite satisfactory. We ascend the staircase. Yet, silence holds great significance. I warned, encircling my arm around his and guiding him toward the stairs. Upon entering his room, I noticed his movements becoming more and more unsteady, each step a battle against an invisible adversary. He sensed an immediate compulsion to alter his attire, yet he was far too engulfed in his own fog to navigate it by himself. At first, the desire to withdraw beckoned to me. As I observed him struggle with the fabric of his shirt, an instinctive urge surged within me, compelling me to step forward and offer my assistance. As my fingers crept toward the buttons of his shirt, I sensed Caleb's breathing becoming more measured, each exhale laden with expectation. A palpable tension hung in the air, not born of desire, but rather steeped in unspoken emotions and a haze of confusion. We both required a moment to reflect on the events that had unfolded. The stillness enveloped the surroundings, intensifying the unease that lingered like a dense mist. Though I was acutely conscious of my actions, a veil of confusion shrouded my mind. Caleb's eyes locked onto mine, brimming with a feeling that eluded my understanding. In that moment, everything seemed transformed. An instant indelibly marked in the annals of time, one we can never retrieve. Caleb halted, the weight of his garments pressing against his palms as doubt enveloped him. His hands fell to his sides, and his gaze bore into me, binding us in a moment that crackled with intensity. In that instant, I became painfully conscious of my quick, shallow breaths. The silence wrapped around the room, dense and suffocating, with each breath becoming a battle against the heavy stillness that surrounded her. "I'm finished with this game, Selena," he proclaimed, his tone starting gently but swiftly solidifying with steadfast determination. My eyes fixed on him, unwavering and fervent. My heart raced, every beat resonating in my ears. Yet, what was it that Caleb genuinely sought to express? "Are you," he added, his voice deepening into a more resonant timbre, "was that truly everything? Just a transient instant when our gazes intertwined? Is it truly absent from your thoughts entirely? It hovers in your mind as you descend into the embrace of sleep." A shiver ran through me, urging me to pull back, but my feet stayed resolutely planted on the earth. "Caleb, this feels all wrong," I murmured, my voice trembling with doubt. Caleb's lips curved into a faint smile, one that concealed a shadowy depth, suggesting the presence of unspoken secret. "We ventured beyond the point of making the right choice long ago, Selena. Stop the illusions you create in the depths of your own thoughts." Drawing in a deep breath, he stepped nearer, his gaze probing into mine as though in search of a revelation. I found myself taking a small step back, craving the room to untangle my thoughts. His expression softened, a silent understanding passing between us, brushing softly against my cheek, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. My eyes were fixed, reluctant to look away, for a truth bubbled just below the surface. I understood he was correct. In that charged instant, Caleb's eyes locked onto mine, the stillness surrounding us heavy with unexpressed thoughts. In that ephemeral moment, the essence of all enigmas remained hidden, poised for revelation. The tumult of ideas swirling in my mind suddenly quieted, leaving merely the softest echoes of uncertainty in its wake, because I had succumbed to Caleb. Yet, beneath the surface, I had never genuinely yearned for it. My hands trembled with doubt, yet I stood firm, anchored in my spot. As I met Caleb's gaze, the fierce determination within his eyes cut through the shroud of secrets, allowing no space for hidden truths. With a weighted swallow, I inhaled deeply, my fingers quivering as I encircled myself, striving to calm my pounding heart. "You're right, Caleb," I murmured, my voice a delicate breath in the quietude. "The hour of play has drawn to a close." As I drew nearer, I let myself fall back onto the bed, the surroundings dissolving into nothingness. My heart raced wildly, each beat resonating in my ears, yet retreat was no longer an option. Caleb drew nearer, his aura wrapping around me like a lingering dusk. His eyes met mine, a brief instant elongating into forever, until a smile blossomed on his lips. "Do not be afraid," he murmured, his voice wrapping around her like a warm embrace. "Everything is as it ought to be." As I shifted my gaze, an icy sensation surged through my veins. Deep within, a truth resided, unvoiced yet irrefutable. I had been anticipating this moment for what seemed like a lifetime. Nevertheless, in spite of my utmost endeavors, the words spilled forth from my mouth, unrestrained and visceral. "Caleb." An overwhelming tide of fear surged through me, my breath catching as I spoke, burdened by the weight of a few significant truths. "Caleb." A surge of dread enveloped me, my breath faltering as I uttered the words, burdened by the gravity of a handful of significant matters. Caleb beamed, dismissing my words with a lightness that suggested they brought him joy. It might have been the drink that obscured his clarity of thought. Caleb leaned in, his breath a soft murmur against my ear. "We must tread lightly, so as not to disturb Sebastian." I grasped the gravity of his words, their significance lingering in the atmosphere, a tangible quiet that begged for respect. A potent feeling coursed through me, on the verge of breaking free, as I struggled to stifle the primal shout that lingered at the edge of my mouth. Caleb's eyes met mine with an intensity that felt almost palpable, and in a voice thick with conviction, he whispered, "I know, Selena. Everything is as it should be, and your light radiates with unwavering brilliance." What mysteries were concealed within the depths of his thoughts? He appeared to perceive it, to understand the intricacies of my mind. In a fleeting moment of relinquishment, I closed my eyes, yielding to the allure of the uncharted. I grasped the blanket with fervor, my feelings churning in a tempest I struggled to understand. I clamped my hands firmly over my mouth, suppressing any sound that dared to break free. Caleb navigated the shadowy confines of the bar, where the vibrant hues and cacophony of noise melded into an indistinct haze. The burden of his concerns had dissipated, replaced by the alluring fog of spirit. In that instant, all else faded away. He was liberated, immersed in a wild freedom that silenced the turmoil surrounding him. This burden was, in all honesty, pressing down on my mind. The excitement of the occasion mingled with every other aspect, crafting a vibrant ambience that hummed with eager expectation, and the unmistakable feeling of an approaching discovery. Caleb navigated the shadowy streets, his perception clouded by the burden of drink, exhaustion wrapping around him like a thick mist, and every strained breath seemed a battle against the encroaching darkness. "Caleb, your face is flushed." "We must hurry immediately." Caleb nodded, a silent understanding reflected in his gaze. He nodded, an air of hesitant acquiescence enveloping the moment. Nevertheless, he continued forward, steadfast in his journey, and so it went on, an unending descent into a chasm of monotony. As another wave of tension washed over me, the outside world blurred, leaving only the heavy burden of the moment bearing down on my shoulders. I had transformed into nothing more than a faint echo of my former self. I closed my eyes, yielding to the moment, and murmured, "Whatever you wish for, Caleb. Anything your heart longs for." Caleb let out a deep breath, a glimmer of comprehension exchanging between us as we confronted the gravity of the moment. A tempest of feelings churned inside me. With a calm resolve, I assisted Caleb in finding his footing, making certain he felt comfortable. I gently shut the door, allowing us the solitude to ponder all that had transpired. Upon entering the bathroom, I craved a fleeting escape, a moment to cleanse the weight of the day and immerse myself in a serene haven. Uncertainty enveloped me, a dense veil of expectation, as I found myself on the brink of the unfamiliar. What had just transpired? As the water tumbled down, my thoughts spiraled, each one more disquieting than the previous, leaving me with an unsettling sense of unease. And yet, as I finally emerged, a fresh clarity enveloped my thought. Oddly enough, a wave of tranquility enveloped me. Fury danced just out of reach, evading my grasp like grains of sand. A gentle serenity wrapped around my body, reflecting the peacefulness of my thought. I donned my attire, the atmosphere heavy with unvoiced sentiments, and approached the bed. I reclined, yielding to the enveloping shadows, as though the very foundation of existence had not just trembled beneath my being. Yet, beneath the surface, this was but a transient flicker, a rush of untamed desire that set the atmosphere ablaze. However, simplicity proved to be a transient mirage. What about this? What is the significance of this? This was bound to unravel into a web of intricacies. The tale had only just begun. It was utterly inconceivable. Ultimately, Sebastian would reveal the truth, with every secret exposed before him. The story has yet to find its ending. Remain near and subscribe, for the upcoming chapter of this unfolding narrative is one you will not want to overlook. Turn on notifications and express your thoughts in the comments section. It holds you in suspense, perpetually awaiting the next unexpected turn in the narrative. Your steadfast encouragement is the essence that propels my path forward. Should you have accompanied me thus far, I offer my heartfelt thanks for your attentive presence.